Welcome back. So in this video we're going to be looking at talking to the dead. Now if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell for any upcoming uploads. For all of you that are returning, welcome back. Now this is across the board, whether you be an absolute beginner and you've just punched it in the search bar, intermediate or advanced. This mechanic or these mechanics that I'll talk about are across the board. Every single person can use them. The problem that we have is that we read books, we watch film, we see TV, and we hear all of these stories, and the fears are just manifested constantly, and all of those will just occupy the mind and will stop the communication. So what we have to do is get a freedom of mind, and that's very, very difficult when we've been living our life the way that we're living it. We've all got our problems, we've all got our diaries, we've all got things to do. We're just occupied. It's very, very difficult to have a silent or clear mind. So I'm going to try and give you a few examples of how we can make this much better. The problem is keeping the video as short as possible. It's just going to be impossible to keep it under sort of 5 minutes. So make yourself a drink or something and strap in I'll try to keep this as short as possible. So I've just returned from a weekend of training teachers, actually, people that wanted to look into moving this forward in their own circles, their home circles, their own groups, so on and so forth. And I was very fortunate enough to meet a young man there who has a very scientific background, something that needs quantifying all the time. Prove it, prove it, prove it. He wasn't that rigorous, but usually the mind is that way when we're coming from a science angle. So the first thing I had to do was to put him at ease and open up that mind, because he's never connected, he's never tried to do a communication, and I walked him through the process very successfully, I must add. The problem was this opened up a whole new realm for him, and a new way of life, a new way of thinking is potentially on the cards, because you could see his mind was blown. And all I had to do was ease him in and get the expression started. That was all it was. Now, when we work with the spirit world and we're trying to do expression, what we're trying to do is give the energy a language, whether that be the English language or wherever you're from. We're trying to express this to someone sitting in front of us. And this is where the problem first begins. It's mainly the biggest problem within mediumship. We can't find the words to give off. We can't find the best way to say that. That emotion, that sense, that picture, whatever it is, we find it so difficult to express ourselves. So this is where we need the freedom of mind. Now just take a look at you as the individual. I mean, literally grab a pen and paper during this video or after this video and write down the things that you are uncomfortable with. Write down the things that you don't like. Write down the things that make you uneasy. And then write down all the things in the polar opposite. Things that make you happy. Things that make you joyful. Things that are free in your mind. And again, I'll give you another example of that. If you are someone that works with children, then talking to a child or talking with children, being able to make things simple to children is going to be very, very easy for you. If you are someone that can't stand children and you don't like them around you, you like the peace and quiet, this is going to be very difficult in some circumstances when it's very vibrant and very noisy as such with the information that's going off in your mind. So we have to go on that self-development journey. It's something we have to understand with ourselves. Now, if you are awkward with people, if your personality is misunderstood, you know, like you think you're being funny, but you're taken the wrong way, and this constantly happens to you, this is something that will need addressing in mediumship, because you're not getting your point across, you're not expressing yourself properly. So as we go through this learning to express, we're also learning how to communicate during the act of mediumship. We're looking at these things within our mind that we're not happy with, and we're looking at the things that make us joyful, and we know how to express that. I absolutely love fishing, and so if I wanted to talk to you about fishing, the passion starts to grow, and I can start to get out the information, where to go, what to do, how I approach it, because it's part of me, it's part of my journey, it's part of my story. And likewise with all the things that you guys do. Some of you might be very creative, that are into painting, or like writing or reading books or literature. Some of you may like watching documentaries or movies. All of these are going to be very free in your mind. So as that part of the communication comes in, that bit's going to be very, very easy for you. That they will account for your best communications, because it marries up with your reality, and they share your story to a point, and so you can express this very easy. You have found the words, it's something that's familiar with you, so you can get it out very easily. Now, you see, you can already see where it's going. If you're struggling with something and something's very difficult and you're struggling to get this information out, you're not expressing yourself properly, you're not getting it across properly. And so this will be something that's very, very difficult for you. That is the area I would choose to focus on. So get your strengths up and running, and that's great, but it becomes very, very comfortable for us. And if you're in circle, or you're going to groups, or you go away to workshops or seminars or residentials, you tend to focus on your strong points. You're not taking the weakness there. I'll work with what I've got because I'm good in that area, but I'm not so good at that. I'm not gonna look at that. I'm not gonna try and present that. And every single time we have that bad communication, one that hasn't worked quite properly, or you didn't really get the information dialed in enough, is because you don't know how to express that emotion, that sense, that feeling, that vision, whatever that is. It's the lack of expression. So you can start to see where this video is going. We need to offer up a freedom. It's a limitless reality, that side of life. When they go there, they're not restricted by anything. That the only thing in the communication that they're restricted by is the limitations of our mind, the medium's mind. And so because we don't know how to express that, or we don't know what that is where the problem will begin. Then what will happen is that they will try to use the closest thing possible to the subject that they are talking about. So they might not, this might be a criminal, for example, that you're working with, and you may have no criminality in your story. So they may use a movie or a TV program or a book that you read as the reference point to get you on point, and then start to let the story unfold from there. This is very, very difficult when people don't know that that's the way that it's working. But it's their story, and you are the instrument in this example, trying to give them that voice that they so desperately are trying to get across. So we need to look at us. We need to open up that mind. We need to learn things that we are unfamiliar with. Okay, it could be a huge database. But over the years of development, or over the years of looking at the idea of a life after life, you will start to just absorb more and more information. Maybe your interests will change. I can assure you that if you embark on this journey, your social circles will change. The people around you will change, that you know and love so well. They will start to come and go at various times. This is because you are different. You have learned to express differently. You have learned to speak your mind more freely. And some people can't handle that. Some people don't like that. And that's okay. There's not a problem in that. Just know that it's there for a reason. It starts to go that way. So if you're very new, then my suggestion is as you move your mind to the spirit world, don't bog it down with rituals. You don't have to light candles. You don't have to protect yourself, or open your mind, or close your mind, or open the chakras, or close the chakras, and all these other rituals. Because in that time and that space of your mind, you are over diluting any kind of information. It's a freedom. It's the freedom of mind that we're trying to achieve. So if you view this as a glass of water, you're trying to give them an empty glass. Now, it will never be empty because we need to function, we need to breathe, we need our body to work. So what we're trying to do is keep the dilution at a minimum. So as much of that glass as possible, we keep empty for the spirit world to put in their information. Now this will feel very gloopy at first and you're just not getting it. But try to understand what kind of person you are. Are you someone that's very sensitive emotionally? For me, in my early days, I was very visual. I needed visions, I needed pictures, I needed those kind of things to sort of get me up and running. And slowly but surely, over the years, as they ticked on, I become more sensitive to the feelings of certain things. And then gradually the emotions would come in, so on and so forth. I was learning where I was going wrong, or I certainly aware that when I was doing the communications, the areas that felt weak, or the areas that didn't really go too well, I didn't really dial it in enough, I would go away and find out. I'd go away and look at something like that, give them a reference point within my mind, so I had something the spirit world can at least try and springboard off of. Remember, it's intelligent, so they're trying their absolute best to get across their information. What I must say to the beginners out there that are trying to embark on this journey of mediumship or speaking to the spirit world, that you must speak, you must say what it is that you're going through. And the very simple process for me to do this was to, as I move my mind to that space, so if I'm sitting in circle or I'm sitting at home with a friend, and I say to them, right, I'm going to try and communicate for you, from that moment onwards, I would speak of everything that come into my mind. And that way the spirit world learned that I would speak, I would do this, I would do that, as they would drop that information into my mind. So very quickly, I learned my own database. I was building the database as I went along and building the relationship I have with the spirit world, and they knew what I was capable of saying or not saying. Now, all of us have had that moment where it just goes round and round and round and round in our mind, and we never say it. Then at the end of the reading, the sitter, the recipient, your friend, whoever it was, would go, yeah, that was right. That's not allowed. You have to speak that. You have to get rid of that. You have to get rid of that self-conscious way of you, where you think you may be wrong. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. Just go for it. And what you get wrong this time, you'll dial in much better next time. No one's judging you. No one thinks you're an idiot. It's just something that you're trying to learn, something that you're trying to go through. I remember recently having a trip to Geneva, and I met a hairdresser there, and she was telling me a story about how she was going through this training of being a hairdresser, and she would get to the point of doing the rollers, and the rollers were good, and then she would set the hair, she would get it right, but it was never quite right. You know, she was always thinking, this is never good enough, it's not quite right, and yet her colleague beside her would absolutely nail it every time. And she remembers the turning point in her career when she accepted, you know, I can do this. I've been doing it for ages. I'm just going to go with it. I know I can do this. And then she went and done it. And now she's a professional hairdresser in Geneva. And she remembers that turning point. And so what I'm trying to make you aware of is that the mindset is the most important part in mediumship. Know that they are there. Don't believe it. Know it. Know that the information is correct. You are just saying it wrong. Know that they are there every single time you want to communicate, and it cannot go wrong. It cannot fail. You are just learning as you go along. So as a recap for you all that have spent the time and watched this video, hopefully you've got to this point of the video, it's the freedom of mind. You have to open up the mind in a state where reference is going to be key for the communication that's going to happen. If you just like the older generation and you like working with them, that is the only style of mediumship you are going to be able to create. And what you want is a freedom of mind, so the badder people of the world can make a communication to their loved ones. The ones that are a little bit weird and wonderful can have their communication, because you're opening up that conscious state, that limitless value of our mind, to allow them their voice. So I hope you can take something from this one. Don't forget, there is a live feed later on this evening. There is a button that you can set the reminder for, and bring any questions if you don't like what I'm saying here, or you don't understand, or you haven't fully grasped what it is that I'm saying on this video or any of the videos. Bring them as a question later on YouTube when I run the live feed. For now, I will see you all next time.